Good evening, fellow thieves! My name is Solaito, and I have been playing King of Thieves for over 6 months. So today I will combine all my knowledge into one video, where I will teach you how to make the best defense for your layout. But before we get going, there is a sponsored link below in the description which you can click to download King of Thieves for free on Android and iOS. So, let's get going and design our base. So the first thing you need to keep in mind is that it is impossible to build an impossible defense. Reason being, you need to save it twice in a row, and if it's impossible, you won't be able to do that. However, that doesn't mean that it is impossible to make a hard defense, and that's exactly what we will be doing today. But keep in mind that a thief might always be lucky and get it down, Some players are just very skilled and can do awesome jumps without much tries. So that's definitely something you should keep in mind, and because a dungeon sometimes get a 2 or a 3 star, that doesn't mean that the dungeon is bad. That just means that the opposing player might be really good, if the other rates are 1 or 0 stars, obviously. Each and every layout is different, so I can't give you a blueprint on how you should build your defense, but I will take my dungeon as an example to show certain principles in building a base. So the most important thing you need to keep in mind when designing your base is that each and every trap should more or less work on its own. Each dungeon has 3 traps. Whenever a thief dies 7 times against a trap, that trap gets disabled, which leaves you with only 2 traps. Now, for example, if you merge very high value gems in your totem, enemy thieves will definitely use a disable trap potion to get rid of another trap. So that basically leaves you with 1 trap. So if your traps only work in combination with each other, then you are in for some trouble, as with only 1 trap, the thief will have a very easy time getting to your totem and stealing your precious gems. So therefore, if you want to build the best defense, the most important principle you should remember is that each and every trap should make a challenge on its own. So as you can see right now in my defense, that is the case. So first there is a long range red guard jump they will have to do. Then there's the cannon, which requires some sort of low corner jump, kinda-ish jump. And then there is the fist or the ricochet, which also will give them a hard time on their own. So if you are designing a base on your own, you should try making a base by only implementing 1 trap at a time and testing each and every single trap to see whether or not it forms a challenge for the invading thief. And if it does, that's a great sign that you will be building a great dungeon. Now, it might be hard to come up with ideas for good trap implementations, and therefore I have a bunch of jump videos which you can use in your base. For example, a very popular jump to implement in your base is the red guard jump. So I'll show you right now how to implement this jump. So we click on the edit button, and basically in order to do a red guard jump, all you need is a door and a red guard. So we're gonna make the range of the red guard a little bit smaller. Let it go to the other side, and basically all you need is a door and a red guard. Now there needs to be 5 spaces between the red guard and the door, and the red guard needs to go 3 spaces to the left. So let's move the totem out of the way, and now we can do this. So this is a red guard jump, and whenever you have a red guard in your base, this is a very good way of implementing like 1 trap which is really difficult on its own. So let's save it, and basically in order to execute the red guard jump, you need to jump, slide a little bit, and jump once more. So let's see if I can do this. I failed. So as you can see, it's really not as easy as it looks. So this trap will form a good challenge on its own. And there we go. We did a red guard jump. So if you want a more detailed explanation on how to build this red guard jump and how to solve it, I will put a link in the description which will bring you to another video where you can have an in-depth explanation on how this jump works. Now another thing which is quite commonly used is the low corner jump. So let's go back here, and a low corner jump involves a door and a cannon, obviously. So I'm not entirely sure on the placement. I think it's something along these lines. And now basically what the invading thief needs to do is he needs to jump right in the corner and right back to not get hit by the cannon bullet. So let's get this fist out of the way and take a look if this will work. I think the cannon is placed too close. So basically it needs to be one above, I'm sorry. So basically, as you can see, in order to do this jump, the thief will have to jump right in the corner and then he can jump back. So this is also a great implementation of a trap which forms a challenge on its own. So for example, if you can combine the red guard jump with the low corner jump, you will already have a pretty decent defense. Now, one thing which is also quite common to do is, for example, with the blades, then you can do an edge saw jump. I do not have a blades in this defense, but I will put also a link in the description which will bring you to a full tutorial on how to do the edge saw jump. Now then there's also the homing cannon, which can be used to do a flash jump. I don't have a video on that, but basically it involves that you need to run to the homing cannon, and then right when you touch the homing cannon you need to jump up in order to dodge the bullet. It's called a flash jump, and I will definitely do a video on that specific jump in the future. But so it's just to give you an idea on what kind of jumps you can use which only involve one trap and are still very hard. And I'm sure you can find some by yourself by experimenting a little bit. Now the next thing you should keep in mind is that people will use potions when you have high value gems. So therefore you can either avoid having high value gems in your totem by speeding up those rituals, or you could just build an awesome defense which keeps in mind that people will use potions when they try to raid you. So for example, what potions are there? First of all, there's the disable trap potion. So as said before, therefore your base should consist of traps which are very effective on their own. But then there's, for example, also the slow motion potion, which makes pixel perfect jumps a little bit easier. So that's something you should keep in mind. Then there's also the King of Thieves, which also makes pixel perfect jumps easier, but for example can also mess up a jump which involves a frozen fly. Because the King of Thieves can just jump against the frozen fly and push it away. So then we also have the ghost potion. So for example, if your dungeon revolves around the fact that the enemy thief doesn't know how to solve your dungeon, then that can easily be solved by using a ghost potion. So those are all things you should keep in mind, and if you see many people using those kind of potions in your base, you might want to adapt your defense a little bit. For a more detailed explanation on how you can obtain potions and how you should use potions, also check the link below in the description, as I have a complete tutorial on everything which involves potions. Now, one popular method in order to build a base is by looking bases up on the internet. There are a couple of websites. I know of 3 and I will put them below in the description so you can check them out for yourself. So basically these websites host all kinds of defenses which have been proven to be effective. Now these defenses are often very hard and they can form a really good dungeon. They are a really good way of doing up some inspiration to build your own dungeon. But there is one disadvantage of using such a defense, and that is that other players are building that defense too, so they know it exists, and people kind of learn how to solve certain defenses, as these defenses pop up a lot in the game. So for example, if 3 different players all use the same defense in their dungeon, after a while you will become confident in solving that dungeon, and so will enemy thieves. So that's definitely something you should keep in mind when you just pick a base from the internet. But they still can be very good options if you are out of inspiration or you just need a quick base before you go to sleep. Now, when you're in the edit screen, there's also this button, Change Traps, and when you click on it, you can choose different traps. I wouldn't advise using this. So there are always 3 trap sets, and the first one is the cheapest, that's the one I'm using right now. Then there's another one which costs a bunch of gold, and then there's the best defense, which costs a lot of orbs. So the thing you need to keep in mind is that it doesn't necessarily give you a better defense. It only gives you a better defense if you actually decide to use that particular layout. But if you change up the trap placement, then the first defense can just be as effective as the best defense. So basically you just pay for the placement, so you don't have to go through the hassle of saving a good base yourself. But generally I wouldn't advise getting these, just stick with the cheapest one, and often you will be able to build a really good and strong defense with just the cheapest option. Also, often when you pick these better defenses, they involve like a trap used multiple times. For example, here in the best defense, it uses the ricochet twice. And this can be kind of difficult because if you want to upgrade your ricochet, two traps will be upgraded at the same time, and therefore your dungeon will be very vulnerable against enemy attacks. So if you can choose a certain trap layout, I would never advise picking a trap layout with multiples of the same trap. So whenever you have built your defense, your guild members will receive a notification that you have changed your dungeon. Let's take a look if I can find one. No, let's see if I can find one over here. But basically it will pop up in the guild chat that someone changed its dungeon and other people should try it out. So if your guild members don't do that, definitely ask them to do, because they can give you valuable feedback. For example, here we have such a notification: Mr. Survival has changed the dungeon, test it out. And for example, he says finally 3.5 hours. So apparently it took a really long time for him to save his dungeon. So basically then other players can test it out and give him some feedback. So basically how this is done, you go to your guild. And now let's take a look at Mr. Survivor over here. He's right over here, and then you can click on this little icon to test out the dungeon. And so your guild members can do this. So let's take a look. I probably won't be able to beat it. No, I already failed. But so your guild members can test it out and give you some feedback on how to improve your dungeon, how long it took them to beat it. Like, this is some valuable feedback, and basically up to 24 players can give you good feedback on how you should improve your dungeon and what they think about it. So that's definitely something I would recommend you doing. But then obviously the most important thing is looking at your defense logs, as these will give you hard numbers on how good your defense is. For example, as you can see, I have a bunch of 1 stars here, so that's pretty decent. Like a 3-star, that isn't really good, so what I'm going to do right now is watch the replay and see how he did this. And he beat it. Whoa. Whoa, he did some sick jumps over there. And now he's waiting in the corner. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, so so I'm not quite sure what I should learn of here, but basically if you see like an obvious flaw in your defense, you will spot it right over here. Like this guy had to jump all over the place, go back and forth and back and forth. So yeah, he was just a very good player who was able to do like really close call jumps. But basically if there is a certain flaw with your base, you could watch it over here. So the thing is you should keep in mind is that 1 stars aren't bad. 1 stars are always good. But like 3 stars, if you have many of those guys, then your defense definitely isn't good. So let's take a look. I even got a 0 star over here, so that's even better. But like, it's nice to have 0 stars, but you should keep in mind that it's impossible to have 100% 0 star rating, because it's always possible to disable a certain trap with the disabled trap potion, and one can die 7 times against your defenses. So that's definitely something you should keep in mind, and it doesn't mean a defense is bad if you get not always 0 stars. However, there are certain layouts which make it able to have lots of 0 stars, and these are the bases which uses platforms where you have to jump at the very edge of the platform and then jump onto the terrain. So sometimes these bases can be really hard even without any traps. So those are the types of bases which can have like consistently 0 stars. And if you can get such a base, praise yourself lucky and create one of these impossible dungeons, because you will have lots of skulls. That's something I can assure you. But so as you can see, I get not that many 3 stars, lots of 1 stars, and this means lots of gold from me. So as you can see, it's a quite good defense. It's not the best defense I have built, but it keeps my gems safe and secure, and that's all I ask for. So definitely go into your defense logs and watch certain replays to learn from them and improve your dungeon with the knowledge you gain from watching these defense logs. Now obviously the best way to do up some inspiration is through attacking other people's dungeons. So definitely keep on attacking other people's bases, like click on this find a match button and look for other people's dungeons, and who knows, you might encounter the same layout as yours and implement a certain jump you can see. For example, in this base you can see the April Fool's jump, which is some sort of edge saw jump, and basically this saw only this saw on its own will make this base very hard. So this is a great implementation of a trap which works great on its own. Also, as you can see, there's like this cannon and the red guard who are at the start, and they will make it really hard to suicide against the saw, and therefore after 7 deaths probably the cannon or the red guard will be disabled. But something this dungeon might like have a problem with is, for example, if you have a high level white shadow, you could suicide 7 times against the cannon and then use your disabled trap potion on the saw, and that will make this defense really easy. So if you would be merging high value gems, that's definitely something you could try to do. So you should keep that in mind. So let's take a look at some other bases. So for example, this is also really good as having a compact dungeon. So when your traps are really close against each other, these will keep on trying over and over, because it doesn't take much time in order to solve your dungeon. And if your dungeon is really strong, that will grant you many skulls. So if you're trying to farm some skulls, have a high skull gold bonus, this is definitely something you might want to implement in your base, as it is really effective. Also, I forgot to mention, the spinner is also really good at being a spawn trap, which immediately kills you, and therefore it also is a great trap on its own. Without any other traps, it can form a real challenge. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. So also again, a pretty compact dungeon, and it will be pretty hard to beat this one. So basically just skip a bunch of dungeons. If you see an interesting dungeon, try to break it in, try to solve it, perhaps use the ghost potion to see how these people save the dungeon, and you can always learn from it. So that's really important to become better at King of Thieves, because you will also, in order to save the base twice yourself in a row, you will also need to have the skill, and you can only get that skill by actually invading other people's dungeons and making bases yourself. Like, the skill comes from experience, and the more you play, the better you get at this game, as King of Thieves is a game which requires a lot of skill. Now, the final thing you should keep in mind is how high should you upgrade your traps. So as you can see, I have a cannon over here from level 25, a red guard from level 22, and a ricochet of level 9. So how high should you upgrade your traps? Well, basically it all depends. So basically a white shadow, which is level 5, so the maximum white shadow, can suicide against a level 25 trap 7 times and still have 2 stars. So if you want to have a perfect defense, which can be suicide against, you would need to upgrade every single trap to level 26. So I'll probably put like a nice table on the screen right now, where you can see how high you should upgrade your traps to prevent suicide from certain levels of the white shadow. Because the white shadow just has so much life, and it's really important to like know how high you should upgrade your white shadow in order to prevent him from suiciding against your traps. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that level 20 is needed to prevent a level 4 white shadow to suicide against your traps, and level 26 is needed to prevent a level 5 white shadow. So those are definitely the levels you want to be heading with your traps in order to make your defense more secure. I have one last tip for you guys, and it involves the experience orbs. So if we go to the attack screen and find a match, then you can see a layout, and basically each and every layout contains 3 experience orbs. And these experience orbs are randomly placed around the track the thief took to save its own dungeon. Now this is really important as it kinda gives away how to solve the dungeon to other thieves. So as you can see, I will have to do a path which jumps up at the door, then fall down and then jump to the chest. So I have some sort of idea on how to solve this dungeon. And without these orbs, it would be much more difficult for me to solve this dungeon. So this is something you should keep in mind when designing your own base and when you are saving your base. So for example, what you could do is spend a long time at a part of your dungeon which doesn't involve the actual defense. So for example, let's say this is my defense or something. And then if I save it, what I can do, instead of directly going to the totem, I can jump all the way back over here, even though that this doesn't involve the actual defense, and then go to my totem. So if enemy thieves try to invade my dungeon, then they won't be able to find out how to solve my dungeon by following the green experience orbs. So it's a small little tip, and it's something you might want to implement in your own defense. So to end this video, I will just show you how you can beat my defense, and you might actually learn something from it. So we're gonna click on the edit button. The totem was placed over there, the door over here. The red guard goes all the way from the left to the right, so we place him over here. The cannon is all the way on the top, and the ricochet is placed over here. So let's see if I can save it once more. So basically, in order to avoid the red guard, you need to continuously jump. Oh crap, I messed it up. So you need to continuously jump, slide a little bit, jump, jump, jump. You go over the ricochet, and now you jump once again to go to the totem. So that's how you solve my defense. Let's give it another shot and see if I can actually save it twice in a row. So let's try once more. You jump, jump, jump. You slide, and I messed it up. But whatever, so basically you need to save it twice in a row and you will have a pretty strong defense, as I get many 1 stars. So guys, this was everything I know about building the best defense in King of Thieves. Keep on raiding those dungeons, build epic defenses, and if you'd like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to get updated on future King of Thieves content.